So we have an opportunity for catharsis with this work. And this is, I would say, what most people are craving and needing. So we are taught often to brush uncomfortable emotions under the rug, to sweep them away, to bury them, to maybe cloak them with contrived positivity or generalizations. And we're not actively taught how to open ourselves up to the emotional body, open ourselves up to the vast intelligence that lives within us. We are not shown how to align to our emotions as a compass, allowing us to navigate our reality. So, a lot of people want to come into a meditation and they struggle. And the reason why they struggle is because they have not recalibrated their emotional body. They have not recalibrated their nervous system. They are probably in a fight or flight response, and their mind cannot rest. And so breathwork is a precursor to, I would say, meditation. Breathwork allows us to clear out that psycho-emotional debris. It allows us to clear out those blockages, those stagnations, even calcifications of the repressions that are stuck and stored in our body, because trauma lives where? The body. And this is why so much talk therapy, though it can be helpful to gain mental clarity and insight, it can often fail to fully release trauma out of the body where it lives. And that's why we have more therapists than ever actually taking this very training, because they're wanting to bridge the world and bring in these somatic arts into their talk therapy practices to have a more expansive offering in a way that can serve in a greater capacity. And so with breathwork, we are unlocking these stagnations and repressions, and we're moving them up. So you can think of breath as water. Let's use this analogy. So let's think of the repressed emotions as dams, like a dam to water. So a dam that's blocking life force energy that naturally wants to pour through you. So breath is like a powerful current of water breaking open those dams and letting things pour in and pour through. And in that, we are surfacing the emotions. So the breath allows us to unlock and to surface these emotional repressions. And that's why people have to be ready to meet their emotional body. Not everyone is ready. But if they are, the opportunity is for catharsis. And so what is available in breathwork is a kind of catharsis that we are still rarely seeing in healing arts. And that is a container for everything, anything and everything. So, in breath, we are creating a safe space for all emotional content, for all emotions to be welcome and invited into the space. So it's not just the feel-good emotions, it's not just the love and light emotions, it's not just that which is pleasant, but it is the totality of our emotional body. And we are creating safe containers for non-judgmental exploration of one's emotional content. So if someone needs to sob, they are permission to sob, and this is a self-permission. So we're giving the breathers that full permission, whether it's sobbing, whether it's ecstatic laughter, whether it's someone releasing primal energy and getting in touch with a clean anger that has been repressed within them. So whether that's a primal expression of letting out anger, maybe yelling into a pillow or letting out some pent up energy, whatever it is, whatever is surfacing, it's important to understand that the breath is an intelligent force. So you can think of prana as an intelligence, as almost a spirit. So the ancient cultures spoke of the spirit of breath. Even the Latin word was spiritus. You can also say that breath is your soul. So when you enter the world, the first things that happens is you take your first breath of life, and that breath is quite literally the spirit coming into the body. And when you leave this world, you take your final breath of life, and it is the spirit leaving the body. And so by connecting to breath in our now moment as alive humans, we can actually connect to our spiritual nature. We can connect to our soul. We can thin the veil and transcend that monkey mind that keeps us in loops of behavior and really break free of those shackles and confines and start to tap into our fullness, to our greater embodiment and our personal genius or dharma, what we have come here to fully embody in this life. And so I would suggest that the majority of our collective, even in healing arts, has not had that intimate communion with their emotional body. So breath work is creating that container. It's creating a container where all things are allowed and all things are invited in without judgment. And the only thing that comes close to this that I've ever seen is maybe something called primal scream therapy, if anyone's heard of that, and maybe a medicine journey. And that's about it. There is still an etiquette to many of our mind-body arts, and there is no judgment, and everything has a place, and they're beautiful mind-body arts, but where are these raw, uninhibited containers for full expression? So breathwork is that. Breathwork is creating that container for people to get in touch with whatever it is that is summoning them and to have that full, uninhibited expression, that radical expression. And what happens when we can finally get in touch with a repressed texture and let it move and let it express is that we no longer carry it. So it's no longer stuck in our channels. It's no longer weighing us down. That density lifts and we feel lighter and clearer and freer. The other thing I want to mention about the subconscious, I'm sure some of you have read this already, but cognitive neuroscience now suggests that we are 95% influenced by our subconscious. So what does that mean? It means that 95% of our decisions, of our motivators, of our influences are actually being covertly directed by those subconscious impulses, by that subconscious content. And that is why it can be difficult for some to break the cycle of self-limiting beliefs, because it's not living in the conscious mind. It has been stored and imprinted and programmed from a very early age. And so breath work is one of the few modalities that can penetrate that subconscious content in a very powerful way. And so you'll learn how that content gets imprinted later in some modules to come. But for now, the most important thing to understand is that from that 95% of influence, 70 to 80% of those program beliefs are self-limiting, self-sabotaging, unserving, self-critical, and negative. So we have these belief structures that have been coded or programmed into us from very early on that are influencing our moment-to-moment awareness and interaction without our conscious awareness. So what did Carl Jung mean when he said our great task is to become enlightened is not to envision figures of light, but rather it is to make the unconscious conscious, or to make the darkness known. And this is what it means to know thyself. It is to become self-aware. It is to fully become lucid to our entire being and to all of those hidden influences, which is why you all have hopefully found the shadow workbook and the emotional intelligence book. This is our great work. If we are to be leaders, if we are to be teachers, if we are to be healers, even alchemists, our great work is to first master ourselves and to become self-aware and to embody this work so we can hold that same space for another. There are many teachers today that still operate in self-illusion, and I'm referencing spiritual teachers, and it is no judgment, but they have not done their deeper inner work. So there is a lot of facade and a lot of pretense still out there. And the philosophy of this academy is truly to be in our authenticity and to be in our vulnerability, and to understand that we are all learning and growing together, and that self-work is a lifelong journey. But breath work is an expediter of that work. And the beautiful thing about breath work is that it allows us to cut through all of those layers and go right to what I call the source code. So it brings us to the root. It brings us to the source. It shows us the very essence of the wound or the distortion or the repression. And it gives us an opportunity to bring life into it and to bring these things up for healing. And also, the final thing I'd like to touch on is that in this altered state of consciousness, in this potentially theta brainwave, we are not judging or analyzing our process. So a lot of times we're taught to push down organic emotions that are coming up. We're taught to bottle or hold back our tears, to hold back our anger, to put on a happy face, to pretend all is fine. And this is not how we expand. And so being in that non-ordinary state allows us to bypass that analytical monkey mind and go into more of a somatic experience where we're allowing our body to release in whatever way it needs to without the mind's interference. So when we can get out of our own way and allow the body to do what it needs to do, your body knows exactly what to do to recalibrate itself. It knows exactly what to do to unwind. It has infinite capacities within it. Even as we sit here, your body is performing trillions of functions without your conscious awareness. We just have this funny thing called abstract thought and the egoic mind that pulls us out of our innate knowing. So when we're in breath work and when we're in this higher state, the body has a new kind of permission because it's in a different brainwave, and the body starts to unwind, to express, to emote, to recalibrate, to activate. And that's why breathwork is so potent. So even a psychotherapist has been quoted saying that one breathwork session is the equivalent of 2 years of psychotherapy. And the reason why is that it bypasses the mind that often wants to analyze their inner work to death and kind of goes in circles, and it goes right to where it's somatically living in the body, and it allows us to organically connect to it in a radical way. The other thing is that once we clear the channels, and I like to call it emotional hygiene. So once we do this clearing work and this also integration work of our unmet emotions, we are making more space in our being. And so this is where breathwork can take us into more transcendental experiences. So once we clear out this, again, the psycho-emotional debris that's clogged in our system, we have made more space in ourselves. And then when we continue to do the breath work and we continue on this journey of breath, it allows us to start to tap into new energies that were blocked before. And those new energies can be new creativity. Someone here said they did a journey with me and they were just getting download after download after download, ideas, inspiration, just writing them down. So we can tap into new octaves of creativity, of vision, of inspiration, of personal genius, of even new levels of love or gratitude, things that we were armoring against, we might open back up to life and receive new levels of that. Also, finally, I would say the most sort of mysterious aspect of breath work is that it allows us to connect to our spiritual essence, so to higher dimensions, to transcendental spaces, mystical spaces. People have connected to ancestors. They have connected to loved ones who have crossed over. We have had women actually, and pregnant women, by the way, would be doing a modified breath work. But even in the modified breath, we've had pregnant women connect to the spirit of the unborn baby. So there's lots of very unexplained aspects of breath work that words would never do justice, and they're very mystical and they're very unspoken, and people can have very, very deep, powerful experiences in the realm of the soul.